There is a silent force at work within you at this very moment, a constant, rhythmic pressure that dictates the health of every single cell in your body. It is the force of life itself, the physical pressure exerted by the river of blood flowing through your 60,000 miles of arteries, veins, and capillaries. This force has no feeling. It gives no warning when it is too high. It doesn't ache or throb or announce its presence in any discernible way. And yet, this single, silent parameter is one of the most powerful predictors of your future health, your vitality, and your longevity. We are talking about blood pressure. For most of us, it's just a set of numbers we hear recited at a doctor's office, a clinical data point that feels abstract and disconnected from our daily lives. But the truth is, understanding and controlling this pressure is not just a minor health task. It is one of the most profound acts of self-care you can ever undertake. It is the key to protecting your most precious assets, your heart, your brain, your kidneys, and your very essence of being. Today, we are going to demystify this silent force. We will journey deep inside the body to witness exactly why it is so critically important, to see the subtle and devastating damage that occurs when this pressure runs too high for too long. And then, we will emerge with a clear, actionable, and empowering roadmap, a guide to reclaiming control over this vital force of life, not through fear or deprivation, but through wisdom, nourishment, and a deeper connection to the body you inhabit. To truly grasp the importance of blood pressure, we must first visualize our circulatory system for what it is, an incredibly sophisticated plumbing network. Your heart is the master pump, a tireless muscle that beats around 100,000 times a day. Your arteries and blood vessels are the pipes, ranging from the large, sturdy aorta to the most delicate, microscopic capillaries. And your blood is the precious fluid that is being transported, carrying oxygen and life-giving nutrients to every organ, tissue, and cell, while simultaneously carrying away metabolic waste. Blood pressure is simply a measurement of the force that this blood exerts against the inner walls of your arteries as your heart pumps it through the body. When a healthcare professional measures your blood pressure, they give you two numbers, such as 120/80. These two numbers represent a snapshot of the pressure at two different points in your heart's cycle. The first, higher number, is the systolic pressure. This is the peak pressure in your arteries, occurring at the exact moment your heart muscle contracts and forcefully pushes blood out into the system. Think of it as the maximum force of the wave. The second, lower number, is the diastolic pressure. This is the pressure in your arteries when your heart muscle is at rest, in between beats, refilling with blood. Think of it as the baseline pressure in the pipes when the pump is paused. Both numbers are critically important because they give a complete picture of the stress your entire vascular system is under, both during the work phase and the rest phase of every single heartbeat. For decades, we have used these numbers to classify blood pressure into different stages, each carrying a different level of risk. A normal, healthy blood pressure is considered to be below 120 for the systolic number and below 80 for the diastolic. This is the ideal state, where your heart is working efficiently and your arteries are under minimal stress. The next category is elevated, where the systolic number is between 120 and 129, and the diastolic is still below 80. This is a yellow flag, a warning sign from your body that things are trending in the wrong direction, and that lifestyle interventions are needed to prevent progression into a more serious stage. Then we enter the realm of true high blood pressure, or hypertension. Stage 1 hypertension is defined as a systolic pressure between 130 and 139, or a diastolic pressure between 80 and 89. At this stage, the risk for cardiovascular events begins to climb significantly, and doctors will often recommend both aggressive lifestyle changes and may consider medication. Stage 2 hypertension is a more serious condition, with a systolic pressure of 140 or higher, or a diastolic pressure of 90 or higher. The risk is now substantial, and intervention is considered urgent. Finally, there is a hypertensive crisis, where the systolic pressure is over 180 and/or the diastolic is over 120. This is a medical emergency that requires immediate attention as it can signal impending or ongoing organ damage. The reason we have these categories is that a mountain of scientific evidence has shown a clear, direct, and undeniable relationship. The higher your blood pressure and the longer it stays high, the greater your risk of suffering a catastrophic health event. This brings us to the core of our journey, understanding why high blood pressure has earned its ominous nickname, the silent killer. The danger lies in its insidious nature. The damage is not sudden. It is a slow, relentless, and progressive assault on the very infrastructure of your body, happening silently, year after year. The first victims of this assault are the blood vessels themselves. Imagine a simple garden hose. If you run water through it at a normal, gentle pressure, the hose will last for years. But what if you were to connect that same hose to a high-pressure fire hydrant? The inner lining of the hose would be constantly scoured and stressed. It would become stiff, brittle, and weak over time. This is precisely what happens inside your arteries. The inner lining of your arteries, called the endothelium, is a delicate, single-cell thick layer. It is supposed to be smooth and flexible, allowing blood to flow without friction. But under the constant, hammering force of high blood pressure, this delicate lining becomes damaged. It develops tiny rips, tears, and lesions. Your body, in its wisdom, initiates a repair process. It sends inflammatory cells and cholesterol to patch up these damaged areas. But when the damage is chronic, this repair process goes into overdrive. These patches, called plaques, grow over time, incorporating more cholesterol, cellular debris, and calcium. This process is called atherosclerosis, or hardening of the arteries. The arteries become narrow, stiff, and lose their natural elasticity, forcing the heart to work even harder to push blood through them, which in turn raises the pressure even further. This is the vicious cycle that sets the stage for disaster. With the pipes of the body now damaged and narrowed, the master pump, your heart, begins to suffer. The heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, when it is forced to work against resistance, it grows larger. Pushing blood through a network of stiff, narrow arteries is like trying to pump water through a clogged pipe. To compensate for this high resistance, the muscular wall of the heart's main pumping chamber, the left ventricle, begins to thicken. This is a condition called left ventricular hypertrophy. Initially, this is a coping mechanism, but over time, this thickened heart muscle becomes stiff and less efficient. A stiff, enlarged heart cannot relax properly between beats to fill with blood, and it eventually weakens, losing its ability to pump effectively. This can lead to congestive heart failure, a debilitating condition where the heart can no longer meet the body's demands for oxygenated blood, leading to fatigue, shortness of breath, and fluid buildup throughout the body. Furthermore, the atherosclerosis that began in the arteries also affects the heart's own blood supply. The coronary arteries, the small vessels that feed the heart muscle itself, can become narrowed by plaque. If one of these plaques ruptures, the body will form a blood clot at the site. If that clot is large enough to completely block the artery, it cuts off the blood supply to a portion of the heart muscle. The heart tissue, starved of oxygen, begins to die. This is a heart attack. The brain, the body's command center, is exquisitely vulnerable to the effects of high blood pressure. It is an organ that is incredibly dense with blood vessels and requires a constant, uninterrupted supply of oxygenated blood to function. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke in two primary ways. The first, and most common, is an ischemic stroke. This occurs when an artery supplying blood to the brain becomes blocked. This blockage can be caused by a blood clot that forms elsewhere in the body, often in the heart or a large artery in the neck, and travels to the brain. High blood pressure accelerates the formation of the atherosclerotic plaques where these dangerous clots can form. The second type of stroke is a hemorrhagic stroke. This is a more direct consequence of the sheer force of high pressure. Over years, the relentless pressure weakens the walls of the arteries in the brain, causing them to bulge out, forming an aneurysm, or simply become brittle and thin. Eventually, one of these weakened vessels can burst, causing blood to leak into or around the brain tissue. This bleeding puts pressure on the brain cells and damages them. But the damage to the brain is not always sudden and catastrophic. High blood pressure is also a leading cause of vascular dementia. This is a slow, progressive decline in cognitive function, memory, reasoning, and judgment, caused by years of reduced blood flow and damage to the small blood vessels deep within the brain. It is the silent erosion of your mind, caused by the silent pressure in your arteries. Your kidneys are the body's master filtration system, meticulously cleaning your entire blood supply several times a day. To do this work, they contain millions of tiny, delicate filtering units called nephrons, each with a cluster of microscopic blood vessels called the glomerulus. Think of these as incredibly fine-meshed filters. Now, imagine taking those delicate filters and blasting them with a high-pressure washer day after day. This is what high blood pressure does to your kidneys. The constant high force damages these fragile glomeruli, scarring them and reducing their ability to filter waste products from the blood and regulate the body's fluid and electrolyte balance. Over time, this damage can accumulate, leading to chronic kidney disease. As the kidneys fail, waste products build up in the body, and the ability to control fluid levels is lost. In its final stage, this leads to kidney failure, a life-threatening condition that requires either regular dialysis, a mechanical process of cleaning the blood, or a kidney transplant. The tragedy is that this is often a slow and silent process, with symptoms only appearing when a significant amount of kidney function has already been irretrievably lost. Even your vision is at risk. The back of your eye contains the retina, a light-sensitive tissue that is essential for sight. The retina is nourished by a network of very small, delicate blood vessels. Just as in the brain and kidneys, these tiny vessels are susceptible to damage from the force of high blood pressure. This condition is called hypertensive retinopathy. The high pressure can cause the vessel walls to thicken, which narrows the vessels and restricts blood flow. It can also cause them to leak blood or fluid onto the retina or cause swelling of the optic nerve. In its early stages, this may cause no symptoms, but as it progresses, it can lead to blurred vision, double vision, and eventually, permanent vision loss. In this way, an eye exam can sometimes be the first place that an astute doctor detects the signs of uncontrolled high blood pressure, as the vessels in the eye provide a direct window into the state of your vascular system. Understanding this devastating cascade of damage, the question becomes, what is causing this pressure to rise in the first place? For a small percentage of people, high blood pressure is secondary to another medical condition, like kidney disease, thyroid problems, or adrenal gland tumors. This is called secondary hypertension, but for more than 90% of people, the cause is what is known as primary or essential hypertension. This means there is no single identifiable cause. Instead, it is the result of a complex interplay of genetic and, most importantly, lifestyle factors. It is a disease of our modern world, driven by the way we eat, move, and live. One of the most powerful yet often overlooked drivers of high blood pressure is a condition called insulin resistance. When you eat a diet high in sugar and refined carbohydrates, your pancreas is forced to produce large amounts of the hormone insulin to manage your blood sugar. Over time, your cells can become resistant to insulin's signal. In response, your pancreas pumps out even more insulin to try to get the job done. These chronically high levels of insulin, a state known as hyperinsulinemia, directly raise blood pressure through multiple mechanisms. First, high insulin tells your kidneys to hold on to sodium and water, which increases the volume of blood in your circulatory system, directly raising the pressure. Second, it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight-or-flight response, which constricts your blood vessels. Third, it can contribute to the stiffness of the arterial walls. This is why a diet that stabilizes blood sugar and insulin is a cornerstone of blood pressure management. Another critical factor is the modern imbalance between two key minerals, sodium and potassium. These two electrolytes work in a delicate balance to control the fluid levels inside and outside of your cells. You can think of them like a seesaw. Sodium pulls water into your bloodstream and cells, increasing blood volume and pressure. Potassium helps your body excrete excess sodium and relaxes the walls of your blood vessels. For most of human history, our diet was naturally rich in potassium, found in fruits, vegetables, and tubers, and very low in sodium. The modern processed food diet has completely flipped this ratio on its head. Processed, packaged, and restaurant foods are loaded with sodium, used as a preservative and flavor enhancer, while being almost completely devoid of potassium. It's not necessarily the salt you add from the salt shaker that's the problem. It's the massive amount of sodium hidden in the foods we buy. This chronic state of high sodium and low potassium intake is a major contributor to the hypertension epidemic. Finally, we cannot ignore the role of chronic stress. Your body is equipped with a sophisticated system to deal with acute threats, the sympathetic nervous system. When you perceive a threat, it releases stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart beats faster, and your blood vessels constrict, all to prepare you to fight or flee. This is a life-saving response in the short term. The problem is, in our modern world, the threats are not a saber-toothed tiger. They are traffic jams, work deadlines, financial worries, and constant digital notifications. Our stress response is activated day after day. This chronic activation of the sympathetic nervous system leads to a state of sustained vascular constriction and an elevated heart rate, creating a constant upward pressure on your cardiovascular system. Now we pivot from the why to the how. Knowing the mechanisms of damage is not meant to inspire fear, but to inspire action. The beautiful truth is that because high blood pressure is primarily a lifestyle disease, it is profoundly responsive to lifestyle solutions. The power to lower it is largely within your hands. The first and most foundational pillar of control is your diet. The goal is to eat in a way that directly counteracts the root causes we've discussed. To combat the sodium-potassium imbalance, the single most effective strategy is to shift your diet away from processed foods and towards whole, unprocessed foods. This will automatically and drastically reduce your sodium intake. At the same time, you must consciously and deliberately increase your intake of potassium-rich foods. Think of leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, avocados, sweet potatoes, bananas, beans, and salmon. Your goal should be to get at least 4,700 milligrams of potassium per day from your food. This single shift, focusing on increasing potassium while avoiding processed sodium, is one of the most powerful dietary levers you can pull. Next, we must embrace the power of another crucial mineral, magnesium. Magnesium is often called the relaxation mineral, and for good reason. It plays a central role in helping your smooth muscle cells, including the ones that line your blood vessel walls, to relax. When these muscles relax, your blood vessels dilate or widen, which immediately lowers the pressure within them. Unfortunately, many people are deficient in this vital mineral. You can increase your magnesium intake by eating foods like almonds, pumpkin seeds, spinach, black beans, and dark chocolate. Another powerful dietary strategy is to focus on foods that boost your body's production of a miracle molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator, meaning it is a gas that signals your arteries to relax and expand, improving blood flow and lowering pressure. Foods that are rich in nitrates, which your body can convert to nitric oxide, include beets and beet juice, garlic, and leafy green vegetables like arugula and spinach. To address the powerful driver of insulin resistance, the dietary approach is clear. Reduce your intake of sugar, sugary drinks, and refined carbohydrates like white bread, white rice, pasta, and pastries. By replacing these with high-fiber carbohydrates from vegetables and whole grains, healthy fats from avocados, nuts, and olive oil, and adequate protein, you can stabilize your blood sugar and insulin levels. This will allow your kidneys to finally release the excess sodium and water they have been holding on to, leading to a natural and significant drop in blood pressure. A well-researched dietary pattern that incorporates all of these principles is the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and low-fat dairy, while limiting sodium, red meat, and sweets. It is a powerful, evidence-based template for creating a heart-healthy eating plan. The second pillar of control is movement. Your body was designed to move, and regular physical activity is non-negotiable for a healthy cardiovascular system. Aerobic exercise such as brisk walking, jogging, cycling, or swimming is particularly effective. When you engage in aerobic activity, your heart learns to pump more efficiently, meaning it can deliver the same amount of blood with less effort. Exercise also stimulates the production of nitric oxide, which, as we know, helps to relax and widen your blood vessels. The goal should be at least 150 minutes of moderate-intensity aerobic exercise per week, which can be broken down into 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Resistance training, like lifting weights, is also beneficial as it helps to build muscle mass, which improves your body's insulin sensitivity. The key is consistency. A daily walk is far more powerful than an intense but infrequent workout. Find an activity you enjoy and make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine. The third pillar is mastering your stress and prioritizing restorative sleep. To counteract the effects of a chronically activated sympathetic nervous system, you must consciously activate its counterpart, the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest system. Practices like deep diaphragmatic breathing, where you focus on slow, deep breaths that engage your belly, can have an immediate effect on lowering blood pressure by stimulating the vagus nerve. Other proven techniques include meditation, yoga, tai chi, and spending time in nature. It is equally important to prioritize sleep. During deep sleep, your blood pressure naturally dips, giving your entire cardiovascular system a much-needed period of rest and repair. Poor sleep, and particularly conditions like sleep apnea where breathing repeatedly stops and starts, can cause dramatic spikes in blood pressure throughout the night and keep your daytime blood pressure elevated. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night by creating a relaxing bedtime routine and a dark, cool, and quiet sleep environment. Finally, a word on monitoring and partnership. One of the most empowering things you can do is to purchase a reliable home blood pressure monitor. Tracking your numbers at home at the same time each day under calm conditions gives you a much more accurate picture of your blood pressure than the occasional reading in a doctor's office. This allows you to see the direct impact of your lifestyle changes and provides valuable data to share with your healthcare provider. It is essential to work in partnership with your doctor. If your blood pressure is significantly high, medication may be a necessary tool to protect your organs from damage while you implement these foundational lifestyle changes. View medication not as a personal failure but as a bridge, a protective measure that buys you the time you need for the powerful effects of diet, exercise, and stress management to take hold. In conclusion, blood pressure is not just a number. It is the story of the life force flowing within you. It is a reflection of the health of your entire body, from the largest arteries to the most delicate capillaries. While the consequences of allowing this pressure to run unchecked are severe, the power to bring it back into a healthy, life-sustaining balance is profoundly within your reach. It does not require a magic pill, but a series of small, conscious, and consistent choices made day after day. It is the choice to have a potassium-rich salad instead of a processed meal. It is the choice to take a brisk walk after dinner instead of sitting on the couch. It is the choice to take 5 minutes of deep breaths when you feel overwhelmed. Each of these choices is a vote for your future self, a deposit into the bank account of your long-term health. By understanding the silent language of your body and responding with nourishing foods, joyful movement, and restorative rest, you can transform this silent force from a potential threat into a gentle, life-affirming river, ensuring that it supports a long, vibrant, and healthy life.